Came across a report that gave 5 members of the Seattle Kraken who may be detrimental to this retool, rebuild, whatever we want to call it. And in the immortal words of Cher Horowitz, that's way harsh, Ty.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. We, of course, are here Monday through Friday. We're still technically in season, so that means that we can be your first listen, your midday listen, your last listen of the day, but we're still coming to you 5 days a week. My name is Erica Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, accredited media member for the USOPC for the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympics. We talked about that yesterday, and a contributor to CBS Sports. Want to let you know, today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And we'll talk about some Seattle bets you might want to take. Okay, detrimental to the retool. 5 players. I saw something come across my Google alerts that there are at least, and I do say at least, 5 players that could be detrimental to where this team is trying to go. And that is, to use a phrase that we've been hearing from the Seattle Kraken, is being a perennial playoff team. And I thought that this list was interesting. And we'll also talk about pass or play on a specific free agent, or I believe RFA, that I want to talk about. And then we'll close out talking about PWHL Seattle in free agency. They made some moves. I got to be honest, there might be another PWHL team that's doing a little bit better when it comes to free agency. Ooh, hopefully this doesn't become a Seattle hockey trend, but I digress. Detrimental to the retool. 5 Seattle Kraken players and personnel detrimental to the roster retool after subpar campaign feat. Okay, before I give you the top 5, according to this article, I want you to put in the chat, as you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube or listening, you can find us at TikTok at Locked On Kraken. Do you agree or disagree with these 5 players? I'm going to announce them so you can tell us after you see all 5 if you agree or disagree. But let me know right now, if you have a player or players that you think could be detrimental to the retool that's happening in Seattle, put those in the chat right now. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to do it. So now is the time. All right. I hope if you wanted to participate in that activity, you put those in the comments. Let's start at number 5 on this list. 5 players or personnel detrimental to the retool. Ooh, coming in hot and controversial with number 5 at Lane Lambert. Another kick at the NHL head coaching can this offseason goes to Lane Lambert, but Lambert will face plenty of pressure as the organization is looking to get back into the playoff hunt. Considering that Bilesma got 1 season at the helm, there's reason to believe that Lambert won't have too much leeway to prove he's the right person for the job. I want to stop there. And actually, I'll pull up this article for those watching on YouTube so you can follow along. I think this is an interesting argument to make as to why Lane Lambert should be on this list, because I'm going to be honest, and we talk about it every day, as you know, OGers, you know, we talk about this. Is he going to get a short leash or a long leash? I don't know. I just don't have a good sense of where we're at, because I'm not really sure if again, I talked about it yesterday. Here's the article. 5 Kraken players. There's a big hint if you're watching on YouTube. But again, some of you probably put that in the chat already. We'll talk about it. My audio listeners, don't worry. We'll get to it. I should say the full article is 5 Seattle Kraken players and personnel detrimental to roster retool after subpar campaign featuring Philip Grubauer. So there you go. I will also note that they spelt Philip Grubauer's name wrong. It's not unusual to see his name spelled wrong, but it's actually, he spells it with 2 P's, not 2 L's. Anyway. So Blaine Lambert, does he have runway or not? I don't know. My gut is to say that he'll have some runway, but I just don't know. And that to me determines whether he can be detrimental or not to the success of the Seattle Kraken moving forward. Going on this list, and if you're watching on YouTube, again, you probably got a little bit of a hint here. The first two in descending order are personnel. And this is someone that I've been questioning a lot. I keep telling you, he's got the runners left on base. Now, whether they score or not is squarely on Jason Botterill and Lane Lambert, but that's Ron Francis. I keep telling you, I just, some of the stuff that Ron Francis did or didn't do is a little bit mind boggling to me. Quote, Seattle Kraken GM Ron Francis has built the franchise from the ground up, but some of his decisions have not panned out. Aside from questionable coaching choices, some signings and draft selections have not gone according to plan. Francis seems safe in his job for the foreseeable future. Questions may arise if he can't make the right moves to get the team back in the playoff hunt. But also, it's a matter of what is his role or what is the proximity to success now that he's in a different position. He's no longer our GM. He's now president. And so the selection of this team, at least in theory, right, should go primarily through our new general manager in Jason Botterill. However, I keep telling you, everydayers, OGers, our guy left runners on base. He left runners on base. And these will be his earned runs against his tally, Ron Francis, that is, unless Jason Botterill does a lot of moving and shaking in the offseason. We're not quite there yet. We just got through the Stanley Cup final. I did yesterday's episode late so we could talk about it. I just had a hunch that Florida was going to close it out, and I was right. So we talked about that. I think I forgot to splice out the part where I'm like, oh, we'll hear from Armando tomorrow. Now, you heard that on yesterday's episode. So if you want to hear a little bit from both our Locked On Panthers and Locked On Edmonton Oilers hosts talking about Game 6, go check that out from yesterday's episode. And of course, watch Locked On NHL Game Night. You can tap into Locked On Panthers, Florida Panthers, Locked On Edmonton Oilers, all of the goods. So yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with this pick right here. The next on the list, controversial for sure. Shane Wright at number 3, talking about how he was our first round pick, 4th overall in 2022. Wright, quote, Wright has not proven the other 3 teams that passed on him wrong thus far. This past season, Wright's first full year, notching 19 goals and 43 points in 78 games. The issue is that he's entering a second year of his entry-level deal. If Wright can't live up to the hype surrounding his first-round billing, the Kraken could face a tough challenge in determining what his next contract could look like. And this is really interesting because I know we are a house divided here at Locked On Kraken from our listeners, from the comments that I get on YouTube. I am okay with how Shane has been developing. I think that there's a mental aspect of the game that he has and he does really, really well. And there's also a maturity on the mental side that he doesn't have comparative to, let's say, a Matty Beniers, where Matty Beniers, as I've told you on the show before, I think what he has to do here is more physical. So I'm okay with the slow roll to Shane Wright. That being said, and I have this conversation on my Seattle Storm podcast, if you pick someone at number 4 and they're not ready to go, then why did you pick them at 4? You got to let me know in the comments, what are you feeling about Shane Wright? Again, I get the sense that we are a podcast nation divided on this one. Shane Wright does need to start accelerating his growth process. And I would argue that, yes, some of that comes from the Seattle Kraken. I'm not going to, though, make the argument that his trajectory has been stunted by the Seattle Kraken organization, nor that he's not putting in the work. I just think that, I think he's on track. How many minutes is he going to be able to get? Well, if he comes in even stronger than he did at camp last year, I talked to you about this on the pod when I was at training camp. I talked to Jessica Campbell about this in May, so over a month ago. He came in physically ready to go, physically fit. The areas of the game, and again, talked to Jessica Campbell, had an exclusive interview with her in May. aspects of the game that he needs to refine are mostly on the mental side, and those things are easy to fix. But as he continues to get stronger and make those mental things, muscle memory and automatic, I think he's going to be in a good spot. So I don't agree with Shane Wright on this list, but maybe some of you do, primarily because of perhaps what Ron Francis and the coaches beforehand have done or haven't with Shane Wright. Going back to the list, at number 2, Brandon Montour. The Seattle Kraken signed Brandon Montour to, as I would say, a 7-7 deal. I've talked to you about that. Montour had a solid first season, but, quote, the numbers weren't indicative of a number 1 defenseman earning $7 million per season. I think this is a house divided as well. Last I checked in with our fan base, people who listen to Locked On Kraken, you kind of felt, a little bit in between that, the Montour deal maybe is okay. I think if anything, we all kind of have been scratching our head. I think we might be a house divided here as well. I do think that you need to get more from Brandon Montour. I can't believe there's only one more player on this list. And again, if you're on YouTube, you got a little bit of a sneak peek. Chandler Stevenson is not on this list. I'm just going to put it out there. I would put Chandler Stevenson on this list before I would put Brandon Montour on this list. Chandler Stevenson, there were times, and again, when Zane was contributing, we talked about this. He did not meet the mark. He did not fit the brief. He did not do what was needed defensively, in particular, from a top 6 centerman. And many people feeling that if we don't get more from Chandler Stevenson, then that is what's detrimental when it comes to Shane Wright in particular. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And rounding out this list, are we surprised? I don't think so. It is one Philip Grubauer. Whew. We've talked about Philip Grubauer extensively on this podcast. Philip Grubauer, talked about him on yesterday's episode. He's headed to the Olympics. So for the sake of someone who knows that I'm going to the Olympics, yeah, I want to see Philip Grubauer have some success. I want to be able to talk about him. That being said, he's been a little bit of a challenge, of a problem with the Seattle Kraken. A major signing in 2021 offseason after he had a brilliant season with the Colorado Avalanche in 2020-21. He has been unable to live up to that stellar performance. Grubauer rebounded somewhat with a back-to-back season posting of 285 GAA, but regressed this past season with a 349. Talking about he went from 1.95 to 316 by way and by nature of being with the Seattle Kraken. That 1.95 with Colorado, a 316 with the Seattle Kraken, bounced back a little bit with a 285, but now is at a 349. Lackluster season led to Decord getting the top spot. The Kraken even went as far as giving Decord a 5-year extension worth $25 million. Team is now stuck with Grubauer's $5.9 million cap hit for 2 more seasons. It just hasn't worked out with Philip Grubauer. Well, it seems like we're sticking it out with Philip Grubauer. Let me know what you think about that list. Who would be on your top 5 lists if we're talking about players that could be detrimental to the retool? That's what this article is arguing. I already told you I would definitely replace Brandon Montour, probably put Chandler Stevenson on that list for a lot of the reasons that we've discussed on the podcast before, but let me know what you think. Coming up on today's episode, pass or play on a Kaapo Kakko extension, and then we will also talk about the signings to PWHL Seattle on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We know that the NBA Finals, the NBA Finals will commence. The Oklahoma City Thunder with an opportunity to close it out, just like we saw the Florida Panthers do last night. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. We know that Halliburton is getting evaluated for a calf strain. So how many momentum shifts are going to come from that news alone? game-winning shots, can't miss moments, all happening in the MNBA Finals. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I also know that the WNBA odds are on FanDuel, and right now, your Seattle Storm's sixth best odds to hoist the trophy at the end of the season, coming in at plus 2,400 behind the Phoenix Mercury at 22, the Vegas Aces at 1,100, the Indiana Fever at 480, the Minnesota Lynx at 280, and the New York Liberty at plus 110. You can find all of that and so much more. You want to bet on the M's, you want to bet on the Storm, you've got it all over at FanDuel. And a reminder that new customers, when you place your first $5 bet, if that wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day, your midday listen, your last listen of the day. We just enjoy being a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here. Apologies also if we ever have some lapses. I'm moving into a new headquarters, so we're still getting all the technology figured out and sorted. But I think I'm going to be able to do some pretty cool stuff in this space, so just stay tuned. Next up, pass or play on Kaapo Kakko. Pass or play on Kaapo Kakko. Now, this is someone that we got in a trade, came to the Seattle Kraken after being with the New York Rangers. And we've talked about this on the show. We've heard from Kaapo Kakko saying that he got some confidence back. He was able to just really lean into and find his game again, playing alongside Matty Beniers. Some people in our comments on YouTube don't like Beniers and Kaapo together. I kind of do like that. Let's look at what he's done in his career. The Seattle Kraken, he had 49 appearances, 10 goals, 20 assists for a 30-point season. He had a 40-point season with the New York Rangers in 82 games, 18 goals, 22 assists. That was in 2022-23. But he hasn't really ever come close to that until spending some time with the Seattle Kraken. For his part in the New York Rangers 2024-25 campaign, 4 goals, 10 assists in 30 games, comparative to 10 goals, 20 assists in 49 games for the Seattle Kraken. So if you look at it holistically, he's got 14 goals and 30 assists on the 2024-25 season. So, of course, that would put him in a position to be better than that 40 points that he received in 2022-23. He was also a plus 12 in that season, minus 11 with the Seattle Kraken. I mean, that's more to do with the Kraken in a lot of ways than anything. A plus 9 in how many games was it again? In the 30 games. In 30 games with the Rangers, he was plus 9, 49 games with the Kraken and a minus 11. He was averaging with us 17.3 minutes per game. That is his highest in his career. Second highest was in the 2021-22 season, where he averaged 15.27 minutes time on ice per game. And then the 22-23 season, 15.18 time on ice per game. So I like Kaapo Kakko. I think there's some promise there. If we look at the Seattle Kraken and their salary tracker or kind of where they're at with things, current cap space for the Seattle Kraken, just a little bit under $20 million. I think I mistakenly said one of our episodes. That was definitely a mistake. Numbers sometimes scare me. That's okay. Kaapo Kakko. He, coming into the 2025-26 season, will be a restricted free agent. So the Seattle Kraken will have first dibs on his contract. Are you pass or are you play for Kaapo Kakko? Pass or play for Kaapo Kakko? I am leaning more towards play, as in I want to keep him, as opposed to leaning into pass or get rid of him. I like what we saw from Kaapo Kakko. I do like him working with Matty Beniers. Now, is there a world in which we can get a better combination? Yeah, I think so. I also think there's a world in which we can get a decent amount from Kaapo Kakko. Um, Now, another thing to notice is that he is arbitration eligible. So there can be some negotiations that go back and forth there. I like the idea of trying to keep Kaapo Kakko. I think that he has good size. He is more of a playmaker, but he can also find his shot. And I think we want him to lean into that even more than he did with the Seattle Kraken this past season. When I look at this article, some of the arguments made regarding Kaapo Kakko. This is by Sam Fisher for the Hockey News. Finnish Kaapo Kakko has emerged as one of the most valuable members of the ye not so old Seattle Kraken. The Maven is not kidding around either. My up to the minute Kaapo conversations come by way of Seattle based producer, interviewer, hockey writer, joke laugher, Glenn Dreyfus. And so this is what Glenn told his former colleagues, because I think he used to work with the Hockey News. Since coming over from the Rangers, Kakko put up 10 goals and 20 assists in 49 games. New Kraken general manager Jason Botterill is already predicting an even better 25-26 season from the Finnish forward. Now, Kakko really showed good chemistry with Matty, reading off each other, Botterill had said. Not that Botterill is trying to show up Drury on a deal, although that this is what we heard also from the organization. We knew he had the size and was strong on pucks, but some of the little plays he makes in the neutral zone or finding teammates in the offensive zone, there's vision and playmaking skills that are higher than we originally thought. I like this analysis. I like Kaapo Kakko. I think some of this is contingent just on other parts of the puzzle that we don't have yet. But I would like to see Kaapo Kakko stay. Now, what the deal is going to take, is it a little too rich for the Seattle Kraken? Are they willing to pay that? I mean, those are all questions that we have to ask our GM. But it seems like they like him. I think he can fit in with this young core that we're trying to build. And for those of you who want us to stay away from the wrong side of 30 guys, then I would imagine you'd want to keep Kaapo Kakko. But let me know, are you going to pass or are you going to play on making an offer to Kaapo Kakko? Do you want him on this roster next season? Let me know in the comments or on YouTube. In the comments on YouTube, or on TikTok or Blue Sky. TikTok, you can find Locked On Kraken. Blue Sky, look me up, elindsay08. Lindsay is ELINDSAY 08. Let me know what you think about Kaapo Kakko. Closing out today's show, what free agency moves has PWHL Seattle made, and who's the team that actually, in my opinion, has done even better in the offseason? We will talk about that coming up as we close out today's Wednesday episode of Locked On Kraken. I want to thank you, as always, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination, whether we are your first listen, your midday listen, or your late night listen. Thank you for listening. PWHL is officially coming to Seattle. Stick taps to so many people who've done so much to get this team there. And now we're starting to see the team build. Now, the organization did take a big swing in the early signing window, getting Hillary Knight, Alex Carpenter, and Kayla Barnes. Just fantastic, as well as Danielle Serdachny. Now, those are some heavy hitters. Then, as we've talked about on the Women's Hockey Report, which is a Saturday show on the Locked On NHL channel, they also picked up Jesse Eldridge, Hannah Bilka. They picked up Julia Gosling Emily Brown, Aneta Taralova, and Anna Wilgren, Megan Carter, and Corrine Schroeder. Corrine Schroeder actually was signed also before the expansion draft. So that's huge. They have a goaltender. They have six defenders and seven forwards just through the early signing window and the expansion draft. Now they've added 3 more players to the mix. And I think these are some solid names. I think that they are more kind of role players than dynamic players. We're looking to really be an integral part of the offense or defense. And let's go through some of those names. One name, if you were able to attend the PWHL Takeover Tour, then you are familiar with Lexi Agia. Lexi Agia signed a 2-year standard player agreement with the PWHL Seattle team. Lexi plays with grit and a relentless work ethic, whether it's on the ice or in the weight room. PWHL Seattle general manager Megan Turner said she brings energy to every shift and is the kind of player who leads by example. She's also a fantastic fan and will be a strong ambassador for our team in the community. Definitely that St. Thomas, Ontario native, 24 years old. She started her career in Ottawa, 5 goals, 3 assists in 17 games, acquired in Boston via a trade, appeared in 53 regular season games, 17 points, the breakdown, 8 goals, 9 assists, went to Quinnipiac, go Bobcats, and spent 5 seasons with the Bobcats, co-captained the 22-23 season, earned a bronze medal with the U18 Hockey Canada women's national team in 2018. So I think this is really an interesting pick. Again, a good role player here for the Seattle Kraken. Another role player and someone that I actually do like her game. She didn't get to showcase it all that much in Ottawa this past season, but that is Natalie Snodgrass from the University of Connecticut. 1-year standard player contract agreement. Natalie is a strong skater with the versatility to play in a number of different roles. She competes hard every shift and brings a consistent work ethic that makes her a valuable addition to our group. Her ability to adapt in all situations will make her an important piece of the lineup. Strong. I don't think she gets enough credit for how strong she can be on the puck. And that is something that Megan Turner mentions in the press release regarding Snodgrass signing a 1-year contract. She played with Ottawa in the inaugural season, 44 regular season games, 8 points total, 2 goals, 6 assists. She did play with the Minnesota Whitecaps in the PHF, tied for the team lead of 20 points, 10 goals, 10 assists in her 22 games. And again, went to the University of Connecticut, has had at least 1 appearance with the senior national team for Team USA. I think, again, a solid role player, very gritty, gives you your P&V, your sandpaper, grit and sandpaper that I like. So high on that, think of, a Ryan Donato-esque type player for your PWHL Seattle squad. But Mariah Keppel played with Montreal the past 2 seasons. She came out of training camp and she appeared in 53 regular season games, 3 points total, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 playoff contests. We know that Montreal never got to the final. Comes to the PWHL from Princeton, and she was an alternate captain in her senior year. When it comes to Keppel, this is what we heard from our GM. Mariah is a steady and reliable presence in the back end. She pays attention to the details, makes smart decisions under pressure, and brings the kind of shutdown ability we want in our defensive zone. She's exactly the type of defender we're looking to add. Again, a defender that's really going to operate mostly in the defensive zone, someone who you can get some offense from, but is not known for that maybe in the same way that a Kayla Barnes is. Kayla Barnes absolutely has the Ryan Donato style of attacking the net, small but mighty for Kayla Barnes. So that's what we have so far. And I've teased you a little bit here, but I have got to say, I really like what we're seeing happen just over the border when it comes to the Vancouver team, because Vancouver has made the moves that I wanted to see in this free agent signing period. Let's just talk about a few of the moves that they have made here. They got one of my favorite forwards, really two of them, two of my favorite forwards as far as P&V, grit and sandpaper. And that is Michaela Kava from the Minnesota Frost, as well as Teresa Vanishova from the Ottawa Charge. Vancouver also signed it. What? PWHL Vancouver also signed defenders. I mixed the words together. Melissa Channel Watkins and Emma Greco. Emma Greco is a really interesting player here. And I like that move. As I suspected, Susanna Topany stays with Boston. That's the only way to go there. Now, Ottawa able to take Cheyenne Darkangelo. That's a pretty big deal. Also, Hannah Miller, hometown in Vancouver, signs a 3-year deal. I think the longest deal in this free agent period with Vancouver. Really like what Vancouver is doing. I think you got to keep eyes on them. But if you want to know more about the PWHL and my predictions, make sure you tune in to the Locked On NHL channel on Saturday, because that's when we will have our next episode of the Women's Hockey Report featuring yours truly, me. That would be me. I'm pointing to myself. Erica L. Ayala, joined by my co-host Rachel Donner. That'll do. So, detrimental to the retool, 5 players or personnel. Do you agree? I agree with at least probably 2 of them. I think the rest of the list, meh. I think there's some other names that should have been on there. But I'm keeping eyes on Ron Francis, Philip Grubauer, to be determined. So I'm like at a 1.5, maybe a solid 2. Lane Lambert, I don't think that he gets a short leash. I honestly am maybe more hoping that he doesn't have a short leash. But if he does, yeah, it's make or break for sure. And then are you going to pass or play on RFA Kaapo Kakko? I like what he's doing. I want to see him stay, but let me know in the comments, what do you think, Kraken fans? Until next time, be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another. Hold fast, stay true, and I will catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.